Hello and welcome to the Tinker Cards video gallery. This is the second video that I'm doing with a slider card. I've slightly tweaked the design. This is the first finished one from the trifold slider card video. And so I've basically added some bits, sentiments, and this is how it's supposed to slide out. And the envelope is moving across, revealing the sentiment, the full sentiment. Oh, shift, I forgot your birthday. And then it's just sliding back in and the envelope disappears underneath the laptop. Now it's a little bit stiff, so I've slightly tweaked it. In as much that I'm not going to make a trifold one, I'm just doing it as a topper, which will also be easier for the ones to do who haven't got an A4 die cutting machine, like a large current caliber or something like that. So this one here you can do with a normal size cuttle book or big shot or something like that. Okay, so that's the raft design. I've slightly changed the colors, but apart from that, not much has changed. So let's get started. Now these are the things that I have prepared. That again, I'm using per lesson card. It's a DL card, and the size of it is in centimeters. It's 21 centimeters by 10 when folded. Now that's approximately, so 10 centimeters is just under 4 inches, and the length is about 8¼ inch. So as you can see, and so that's when folded. Now I'm going to do toppers for that with the slider element. I've cut them slightly smaller, so they will be just 8⅛ of an inch by 3¾ and that's about 20.5 centimeters by 9.5. And I've cut 2 pieces of card like that, and in one I've started off cut in with my edge border dies. They're the Lacy Edges from STAMPlorations, so I've just done it twice and run them through, and it's roughly the width between here, so I'm going to show you that because that's going to be relatively important. If you go from the first indent to the first indent, it's just about 3½ centimeters. Now that's approximately what's that? That's 1, 2, 3, 1 3/8 of an inch. So that's roughly the idea. Now this gap here, it's quite important not to make it too wide, because that will then bring your slider element a bit too much forward, as you will see later on, because we'll be using the cutout here as the sliding tag that sits behind the front of the card. So that is one thing. I'll be cutting these ends off in a minute, and I've cut another piece of card to exactly the same size, and what I've done on the reverse, I marked out, this is about 1 centimeter in, 3 centimeters, and then another 3 centimeters from the edge, and that's approximately, you got here, that's just 1 3/16 of an inch, so that's twice for these two, and the 1 centimeter is just under ½ of an inch, so that's about what's this? That's 3/8 of an inch, basically. So I'm going to just get my craft knife, and I'm going to get started with that. The other things that I have also prepared once I pick up my cutting mat is an envelope and the laptop where I stamped on the screen sending #love. The sending is from the Blossom Overture set, and the envelope and the laptop and the #love are from the Hello You set by STAMPlorations. By the way, this is going to be part of the spotlight feature I do for them, so I'll be using their products or stamps and dies exclusively. So let's just cut this down. So basically what this is, this would be sort of like a spacer piece to go in to help the tag slide more easily. On my original card I didn't do that, and it is actually a little bit stiff, but I felt, because I had done it as a trifold card, that it would be too big and too bulky to insert an extra piece of card into it. So I'm just cutting this here, and it's relatively easily done. I mean, you can use scissors. I'm just a bit, when I want straight lines, I prefer using my craft knife and a ruler, really, because I'm not that good at cutting straight. So that is that. So basically you're cutting out a piece which you could use as well as your slider element, or you can just use it for something else later on. I just felt it would be quite nice to have the shaped edges to the slider element rather than not. So let's just see, that should be one. Yeah, that's pretty much done. So this will be the spacer that will sit behind here, as you can see. Yeah, and it will they both will go onto the front of the base card, like this eventually. Right, so next I'm going to just cut these edges out, and you've got a little bit of wriggle room here for cutting these when you die cut it. It's actually not that difficult to sort of align them relatively well. You can always snip the remainder off here, the little bits, with just using some scissors. So let me just quickly cut this through again. So that's that. And the other thing that I hadn't mentioned earlier is I've also prepared a couple of borders to sit inside here, which I've already die cut. So let me just get some scissors out. What I tend to do is, for things like this, I have some curved nail scissors. I find it easier to, they've got a very fine tip, and if I need to get in to shape something, it's actually much easier to use them rather than some straight scissors. So if I just come in here, and that's it. There you go. So that's my topper. This will be the tag. So we'll be doing some stamping on that in a minute. I'll first get all my bits trimmed. So I'm just going to get the borders out, which I got here. So I used this for the other card as well, so hence you see the edges there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip in here to have like little tabs on each side, which would make it easier to glue them down into place later on. So that is that. And that. So let's just immediately then start with these. Where's my glue gone? Oh, here it is. And then that can sort of set. So I'm only putting a little bit on, and I'm going to go quite close to the edge as well. You need to have a certain width to this, because of the way it sits behind the original aperture that you cut using your border dies. And I know I've probably gone a little bit narrow here, so I'm just going to go right along the edge. That should be enough glue because it will stick down later on anyway when I put the spacer element in. That would help further keep it in place. So let me just do this. So this is something as to what we are looking for. When you use glue, you can always slightly adjust your the piece that you're adhering, and that's what I like using, especially if something is going to prove a little bit fiddly at some point. So if you see that, so that's in place, and it gives you this nice sort of circle chain border. I'll just try and pop it up a little bit further that end to equal it out a bit more. That's it. That's what I'm quite happy with now. So I'm going to do the next one. This is it is a little bit fiddly, but I think the result is quite good. Of course, you could put the border on top of it, but I sort of quite like the effect that you're getting with this the bead type of effect. Right, so let's put this in and align it approximately like that. Needs to come across a bit. So that's it. I'm quite happy with this. Okay, so that's one piece. I'm not going to stick anything else down right now. I'm going to do the stamping first. So let's get the stamps out. So we're going to, roughly in the middle here, stamp some chevrons on. Yeah, maybe leave it like that way around. Then I know where I'm going really. So I've got some little bits here from the Chevron and Arrow set by STAMPlorations. And I'm not being too fussy about whether it's exactly in the middle or not. As long as it's roughly okay, it will look right. Okay, so this is where I slightly didn't ink up properly, but I'm not too worried. Okay, I can always get my marker out and fill it in, so that's the least of my worries now for the demonstration purposes here, to have that 100% okay. Right, so next I was hoping, so this is going to sit here somehow, and the envelope will end up somewhere along here. So as compared to the original card, I'm just going to stamp the flowers onto my base card, just plain in pink, and I might do the ones here in purple. So just to tell you where I'm going with this. So you're getting your base card out and just get some flowers, and I'm using the ones from the is it a Groovy shoes set? I think so. Yeah, it's Groovy shoes. They sort of fit the theme of the laptop and whatever quite nicely. So I'm just going to randomly stamp some. The keen-eyed of you will probably have noticed I've gone a little bit too close to the edge there, but it doesn't really matter. So that is one. That is two. And I'm just going to pop some other ones in the middle, some little ones. And I don't mind if they're sort of overlapping partially. So let's just see what that is going to look like. Let's just get these off. So this would sit approximately like this here. Now that would probably be covered by the tag anyway, so it's no big deal. And what I could do now is put these approximately like this, and then get my sentiment and stamp that on. And if it doesn't look right, if you just use paper, it's normal copier paper to stamp it on, then you can always layer it up without any problem. That's what I did with the other with my other card, the original one, because the stamping itself didn't show as well, but I didn't want to have too much bulk on my card with the slider, because I didn't quite know whether it was going to work or not and how it was going to work. So this should be okay. Let's just, I always ink up the blocks as well when I have bigger ones, but I needed a relatively long one for the sentiment, so I've just wiped that off. And I'm hoping that this is going to be okay now. That's that. Yeah, you can see it, and it's actually better than it was on the original card, so I'm not going to put anything over it. Right. So let's just pop the tag behind it to make up my mind whether I need to have this as purple. Yeah, I'll add some couple of purple flowers there once I got them out. Let's put this to one side for the moment. Let's just quickly do that. And then all we have to do is layer them up, and there will be a little bit of a trick behind getting the envelope to disappear behind the laptop. Let's just do that. Okay, so wipe this off. Right, now this is, where is it gone? I knew I had a piece of kitchen roll here because I don't want to get all of this messy. It's messy enough as is at the moment. Right, so let's put all the inks away. Let's get the tag. So I'm just using my crocodile to punch a hole for the ribbon to go through. You could also staple it if you wanted to. That's of course another idea to do. So I've got a piece of ribbon somewhere which I'll feed through in a minute. Now the other thing to do here is I was going to notch this, and I've got a circle punch here that I'm just going to use for that. So let's just do this. Make sure not to go too far in. That's that. And next is layering it all up. So that will mean gluing the spacer card to your base card. So let me just get started with that. Yeah, let's pop that to one side and just run some glue along here. You can of course use double-sided tape. Just not that keen on using it because I find that I want to move my elements around to have them align properly, and I'm never able to do that with double-sided tape. So what I'm just going to do is actually pop this in here. To help that to stay in place and not to move too much. Right. So we got that. Let's put that there. So that's relatively okay. So that's that. And then this all goes onto my base card. Let's just fold that over first because this pearlescent card is very stiff. So I'm just going to burnish the card first before I stick that on, otherwise I won't be able to do that. Oh, my glue. Well, there you go. That's what happens if you've got a very, very small working space that is always desperately overcrowded. So, well, never mind. So it's already quite a bit more sturdy. Than it would be just with one plain simple card, a piece of card I mean. And the spacer card really just gives it that added thickness. You can of course use a different type of card for your spacer card, as long as it is thicker than the one you used for your absolute top where you get your tag from. So let's flatten that out again a bit. And just go for it. So there we go. This is that. This is not a problem here because the laptop is going to sit over the end here, disguising that end a bit. And the tag, as you can see, it slides in effortlessly, much better than in my original card. And now this is why it is actually quite important not to make this particular bit too wide, because if you'll end up with a gap at the other end. I mean, your laptop sits over it, that's okay, that's not a problem, but you need to attach your envelope to this end. So it's going to be somewhere around here. So I'm just going to put like thin foam pads on that edge here. just enough to have it slide across there. So they're only the very thin ones, as you can see. Probably just 1 millimeter or something. So I'm going to put 2 on there. I'm not taking the backing off just yet. So this is how I want my envelope to sit on the card here. So that means that my laptop will have to be approximately like that. So you don't really see it. I suppose I could put the laptop up pop it up on a bigger circle or something, but I don't really want to add more stuff to it in the front here. So let me just figure out, because I need some pads either end there. So that's roughly what it's going to be like. So I know I can put my thicker dimensionals. Oh gosh, what's that? Up here. And along the bottom as well. Gosh, they always stick together, these things. So we'll have to move the one again. So just need to make sure that your envelope can slide in and out relatively easily, so do not follow the curve. Just this here needs to come off again, and that is where it's getting a bit fiddly, because that wasn't in the right place. It was far too close to the edge. Oh gosh. That's it. I'll just get another one up and pop it on. You can, of course, also sort of cut these in half. Yeah, that should be okay. That's a bit further in. So if I take these 2 off, and this is just now just going for it really. If I get my tweezers, so I've taken these stickies off, and I'm going to take all the cover bits off, so it's going to be stuck into place now. And I've got my tweezers, so I'm going to hold them both together. There you go. Nope, that's not quite how I wanted it. Just move this around a bit, this envelope. Just leave it like that. Oh, I'm just going for it. There we go. So that's the laptop. Then this is the tag, and the envelope is just popping across there. Okay, so both of the finished cards will be on my blog, and definitely on the STAMPlorations blog as well. Thank you for watching. I won't keep you any longer with my ramblings, and I shall see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.